Hello, my name is Wilkada, and today we're going to be looking at an upcoming indie game called Anvil Saga. First, I would like to thank the developers for supplying me with a key to check this game out, but this is not a paid advertisement and all opinions are my own. Anvil Saga is a shop management game where you are an English blacksmith in France during the 100 Years' War. You'll be faced with many decisions that affect the opinions of factions in the region, be it through story elements, random events, or even just which customers you choose to serve. In order to be successful, you will need to hire employees, expand your home and shop, and do some light reading to learn new skills. Today we're going to go over many features of the game, but we won't cover too many story elements, so that if you're interested in playing this game, you'll be able to discover them for yourself. So let's start by taking a look at the beginning shop and go over the basics. Alright, now here we are in our starter house with just our little bedroom, which this game considers a living room, and a starter little kitchen. We also have our work stall over here. So we are starting off from scratch with no fame, a little bit of money, and just our little basic starting area. So to begin with, as mentioned, this is money, which is mostly used for upgrading your house, hiring and paying workers, and buying supplies when necessary. Below that we have fame. Fame is required to unlock further content, such as better upgrades for the house, new tools for the shop, skill books to learn better skills, and nicer furniture. And below that we have our ingots, which are what we use to make most of our items. Below that we have the raw ore that we smelt into ingots. And then below that we have a couple of things that are not yet in the game. They are other resources that will most likely behave quite similarly to the ore. We also have a book that will give us some information about the story that we have gone through. Currently we haven't gone through anything, as well as summaries on employees, some statistics and whatnot, factions and things. We won't bother with this right now. And then below that we have our actual just factions. Comes straight to the faction tab. That's a little bit better reference that you will go to see what kind of benefits or drawbacks we have based on what our current faction statings are. And up here we have another quick look at our factions, just so we can see the number, but this will not show us our actual benefits and drawbacks. With that, let's go over the basics of crafting and using our resources. So in order to make anything, of course, we need to have metal bars. We can go over to our smelter and start turning these ores into bars at a 1-to-1 ratio. Now right now our shop is closed, which is indicated by this sign, so we don't have any customers coming up. We'll go ahead and open that up. That way they can start coming in while we are smelting. As you can see, we're going to run out of material pretty fast. And here comes our first customer. She wants a horseshoe. She's going to pay us 9 money, and it's only going to cost us 2 ingots. This is actually a pretty good crafting recipe. So we're going to accept the order, step over here to the anvil. And as you can see, she has a patience bar. If it runs out, she will leave. And our crafting bar for when it's done. Now, she was French. This guy is French as well, as you can tell by the blue border with the symbol on it. This is also a pretty good ratio here. We're going to get more than 3 copper for, per ore. This guy is a bandit. And these are the factions, which we will go over a little bit more here in the future. But as you can see, we're going to quickly run out of bars. We have no ore, so what we want to do is order some. So down here we have the shop menu. I'm going to start that up while we're going. In the shop menu, we can buy ore at different quantities, and the more we buy, the better the value. We can also buy pre-smelted, and there will be future things that will be unlocked later on. These are most likely going to be related to the wood, I would assume. We have other tabs which we'll go over later on in this video, but for now, you can see we can hold 20 ore. So let's go ahead and purchase it because that is our best value, and we're going to buy it. Now down here you can see that the courier is on his way. While he's on his way, we cannot actually purchase anything else from him. And he'll be showing up outside. There he is right there. He just came in on his cart. He's going to bring it over and he's going to drop it off in our chest, and then he's going to go on his way. Go ahead and make one more item real quick like. And you'll see that our total will jump up to 20. And we can go back to smelting. And we can kind of go back and forth and do this while they're adding up, but if we get behind, we can always close the shop. Now, if we accept this order before we close the shop, then they will stay. If we close the shop without accepting the order, then they will go away. So, for example, even this guy who's on his way, we close the shop, they all walk off. We open the shop back up, then they can start coming back in. That'll give us a little bit of time to smelt some more. This also gives us an opportunity to look at our skills. So we have the skill for smithing, skill for smelting, skill for sharpening, which will be a grinding wheel that we'll get later on, and a skill for mining for when we have a mine. As you can see, they will sometimes ask for a loan, or basically that they will go in debt. It's kind of hit or miss as to whether or not they will come back with the money, and you can make your decision. This is actually kind of a bad trade, so we're going to say no anyway, even if he was paying us the money. This one's even below 3. I kind of like to have at least 3 money per, so don't feel bad about sending them on their way. Now that we are maxed out on bars, he'll stop smelting even though we have ore left over. Oh, this is a real good one. And if we look at our faction tab, we will most likely gain faction for having crafted for this person. There it goes. Now we can have faction disputes where sometimes one faction will go up and another one will go down because they don't appreciate that we are helping people that they don't like. So looking at the factions real quick, we have England, we have France, we have the bandits, we have the church, and we have witches. Witches and the church don't get along too well. And England and France don't particularly care for each other as well. We'll get into more detail in the factions later on. For now, let's take a look at building. So we're going to begin expanding our home by actually digging into the ground. You're going to need to do this because we really need a mine so that we don't have to keep buying ore from that expensive store. As you can see, this will allow you to build underground on the second floor, and it's even where you'll go when you need to upgrade your stall. Now if we wait for just a bit, we'll see a builder come from the right side of the screen. They'll climb down into the new room and build it for us. So let's give him a moment to do that. Once the room is complete, we can click on the room. It's going to give us an option to set what kind of room it is. We're going to want to go to working rooms, select the pickaxe to assign it as a mine, and then we can click on the room one more time. It's going to bring up an interface that allows us to pick the furniture we want to put in there. We will want to put a mine in here. We'll also want to put a crate because we need somewhere to store the ore. And that will be all we need to do to make this a functional room. As the game progresses, we're going to need to add more rooms, and it won't be long before we're going to want to add another living room because more living rooms means more employees. So let's add a second floor. As you can see, with the second floor, we can change our roof types. I'm kind of partial to the slanted. I think it looks neat. We also can change the wall type between a normal wall and a balcony. Let's go for a balcony because why not? Balconies are cool. And as before, when the room is complete, we'll need to click on it and assign its type. In this case, we're going to assign it as a living room. And then we'll need to furnish it appropriately with a bed, a table, and a chair. And And if you're not happy with where you place something, you can always click on it and slide it around a little bit back and forth. You also have the option to turn it around in case you want the rotation to be the other way. And there is a button if you want to sell the item, though you will not get the full value out of it. Another thing the build menu will allow you to do is to upgrade your house. And this is required if you want to raise the amount of fame that you can have, which is necessary to be able to eventually upgrade your stall. So you can see here we can upgrade the roof, and the increase in the fame cap and the cost. We can also upgrade the walls. But as you can see, not all things cost the same. We can also do doors, and even the floors. Just about everything can be upgraded and has some kind of increased value for your fame, even the ladder going into the basement. Now, we're not particularly rich at the moment, so let's go ahead and take a relatively cheap upgrade and upgrade our roof. As you can see, the cap for our fame went up by 3, which we will earn by fulfilling orders. And upon reaching 50 fame, you'll be able to upgrade your stall, which will increase the amount of ingots that you can hold in your chest, as well as unlocking a bunch of new furniture and new rooms that you're going to need, such as a workshop, which you're going to need to house your grindstone for sharpening, a library so that you can teach your employees how to fulfill other order types, and higher quality furniture, such as upgrading your kitchen with a higher capacity pantry so you don't have to order food so often. Now, as we mentioned earlier, building additional living rooms will increase your employee cap. But your first employee comes free with an early event where you'll get the option to choose between one of 3 employees. One is a Frenchman, one is an Englishman, and one is a bandit. Most importantly at this point, the one you take will give you a little bit of a boost with their respective faction, and there may be some storyline interaction with them later on in the game. Today we're going with the bandit because the bandit has a monocle, and monocles are cool. Now, later on, of course, you're going to want to hire additional workers. When you want new employees, you'll need to go to the bottom right and select the hire button. And most of the time, you'll get an option of 3 new employees. Now, their skills are usually hidden, and you can pay to see their skills. In this case, we can see that Logan has nothing, but he's all we can afford because we also have a hiring cost. Interestingly enough, in this case, Logan also changed his name when he hired on. So I guess for now on, we'll call him Claude. Now, all employees can do any job, but sometimes some employees do a job better than others based on traits that they might already come with or that they might develop while they're working. So let's take a look at traits next. From time to time, while working, your employees will develop traits. In this case here, Arthur, our original blacksmith, has become a pacifist. It will not complete orders for soldiers or knights, which is not really great for someone working the anvil. Here, Monty, our fearless bandit, has become God-fearing and will stop working on occasion to pray, and he doesn't like it if you tell him to go back to work. He does, however, have a chance of making additional money from metal items that he crafted. Oh, and Claude is a weakling, so we're not going to have him work in the mines. Now, in addition to the traits, your employees will also carry tools. Now, all employees have access to the universal tools by default, but there are also specialty tools that you can acquire, some of which come from story events, and others can just be purchased from the shop. Here we can see we have our grandfather's mining equipment. These tools give +1, 2 to the employee's mining skill trait, but they are so specialized that Any employee that has them equipped cannot use any other station until they remove them. And here we have another example of a tool that we get later on in the story that greatly helps with forging, but hinders with the mining and sharpening of the employee that is using them. Be sure to check the shop for other tools that can help your employees with their daily tasks. Now, from time to time, customers will show up and place orders their employees are not initially trained in how to complete. This is where the library comes in. Now, if you've already built a library and have a bookshelf, you'll need to go down to the Build menu and over to the Books. And these are the skill books that you'll need in order to train your employees to complete those advanced orders. Now, you don't necessarily need to afford to purchase all the books all at the same time, but fortunately, you only need one copy of each book, as each employee can read the same book. Now, all you need to do to train your employees is just send them to the bookshelf, and it will show you any book that they have not already read. If there's only one book left for them to read, they'll automatically grab the remaining book and read it. Also, if you don't want to create eye strain, you might want to buy them a candle, which you can do from the Build menu and add them to the table by editing the table itself. Once your employee has read the appropriate book, you can see here in their trait list, it will show the symbols for all the different orders that they can now complete. At that point, you just need to accept the order just as normal, and they will complete it like any other order. Be aware that if you try to accept an order and you're on an employee that does not know how to work the order, you will get a warning saying that they cannot process the order. That's alright, you can still accept it and still have an employee that is trained to work that order complete it anyway. Now that we've covered most of the mechanics dealing with you and your shop, let's take a look at the things that are going on in the world around you, how they affect you, and how you can affect them. Now on the right over here, we have a button that will open up the book straight to the factions. And from here, we can get a quick summary of what all the different factions think of us currently, and we can also see what benefits and drawbacks we have based on their opinion of us. Here you can see England isn't terribly happy with us, and the first penalty that they apply is that they start to interrupt caravans to our shop. Now, the way that manifests itself is if we look at the shop, we can see that there are various items that normally would be available that are currently unavailable. It is random what will be available and what will not, and they will change over time. As you can see, you can earn quite a few benefits, but it's difficult when you have factions that don't like each other to avoid sinking at least one of them and earning a bunch of negatives that go along with it. Faction benefits primarily focus on increased income, while negatives are primarily focused on interfering with your business. You can even get a lightning bolt, courtesy of the witches, that you can use to strike down the tax collector. And while there can be sizable faction gain and loss through events, your primary faction changes will come from the customers you choose to serve and who is watching when you serve them. As we just saw there was a member of the church that witnessed us processing an order for a witch and decided to take their business elsewhere. This works both ways, as the witches also do not care for the church. Unsurprisingly, the English and the French likewise do not get along. In addition to customers, faction and reputation can be impacted by events, so let's take a look at those now. Now there are a number of story events that occurred during the game, but let's go over one of the primary ones, which is the war. As this game does take place during the 100-year war between England and France, both sides will be needing weapons and they will approach you for assistance in the war effort. Each faction will approach you asking for your allegiance and assistance. The decision that you make will have an impact on the path in which the story takes. Regardless of which faction you accept, however, you will get a related faction boost and loss, and you'll be given a large order for the weapons and shields that they need for the fight. In addition to faction-related events, there will also be events that will allow you to increase your reputation with significant NPCs throughout the storyline that you will interact with. Finally, there are some random encounters that you might have with groups such as peasants, bandits, or mercenaries that, if you carry out their request, may actually directly impact what seasonal event is active in the region. And this seems like a good time for us to actually go over some of those seasonal events and how they may impact your gameplay. In the top left corner, you'll see a picture that you can click on that will show you the current active event. At the beginning of the game here, you can see that there is no actual event, therefore there is nothing affecting your gameplay, but that will not last. Let's take a look at some of the other seasonal events that can occur. Here we have a religious celebration in which monks will be your primary customers, and the order prices are higher, which is nice, so you will make more money. For now, we don't have to worry about wood prices being higher because wood is not yet in the game in this early access copy. Here's an example of an event that can occur due to something we've done previously. In this instance, we helped out peasants in a random encounter by crafting them some tools for planting. As a result, peasants know that they can come to us for tools, and it has increased our business with them during their planting season. And here's one that can be pretty rough, especially early on if you're still trying to expand your shop. But if you're lucky, there may have been a random encounter before this where you helped out some builders who are willing to do buildings for you even during the event. Speaking of random encounters, let's take a look at a few of those real quick before we wrap up this video. As we saw earlier, when the peasants approached our shop asking for tools, from time to time there will be random encounters. But those encounters aren't always random nameless NPCs, but instead might be people that you recognize from cultural references. For example, a certain mysterious count who's allergic to silver and doesn't care too much for daylight. An eccentric pirate who needs a compass to point him to what he wishes. In this case, what he wishes is to go south. Or a green tunic-clad adventurer who's just looking for a master sword that will not break. But that's going to wrap it for this look at Anvil Saga. The game is available on early access, and there is a free demo version of it. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen here, and you think the game might be interesting, you might want to download that demo, take a look at it, and consider if you want to purchase it and support this indie developer. But I've been Vakata, and thank you very much for coming out and taking a look at the game with me.